Good morning and welcome to the show. I'm here with Dr. Roman Nation. We're going to talk about the health risks and health considerations of what's been going on here in Panama City Beach, this crazy thing we still call spring break for some reason. I don't know why we're calling it spring break. I mean, it's actually evolved into something totally different and unrecognizable from spring break from when I first moved down here in the late 90s.
Yeah, I was going to say it's evolved in a bunch of different places too. So.
I mean, it's over. The dust is kind of settling now. But, you know, there's been shootings and drug arrests, and they're breaking all kinds of arrest records.
Yeah, with people dying and injuries, and the emergency rooms are overwhelmed with people taking head dives off of balconies or, you know, motor vehicle accidents and those kinds of things. So
now, you're a parent. I mean, and I know your kids are still small, but when they get to college age, how are you going to handle spring break?
Well, you know, I've got five younger siblings that all kind of went through that, and I was on the college track, so I never did the whole, you know, drunken spring break thing. But most of them did at one point or another. And to me, the biggest thing is,
and it's funny you should say that. You said you were a college student. Most of the problems happening here aren't really from the students.
No, they're not from the students. No,
it's that 100-mile crowd or whatever they're calling it.
Right. Yeah. It's a group of people that are coming to try and prey on the college students for when they get a little inebriated, and then they want to, you know, sell them drugs and those kinds of things, and that's where we get into all the health risks with that.
So how are you going to handle that with your kids? I mean,
you know, it's funny because we've had this discussion a few times about, well, what are you going to do? And I would rather the kids, if they're going to go do, I mean, we did stuff stupid when we were kids too, you know, but.
Yeah, we all had our moments growing up.
Yeah, there was things that you would look back and say, you know, that was probably pretty dumb.
But I didn't shoot 7 people.
Well, that was one thing. And then the second thing was, did you ever drive drunk? You know, and if you did, then, you know, that to me is probably the biggest health risk of all of it. You know, because you get behind a piece of machinery that is, you know, a vehicle, and you can not only hurt yourself, but several other people. And I've seen way too many friends that have had kids that happen with.
Hurtling down the highway with a 2-ton bullet.
Yeah.
And you know, you see these public service announcements that, you know, buzzed driving is drunk driving.
Yeah. Yeah. You can have drunk driving on a scooter now. And there's all kinds of, you know, hoopla about people wanting to force them to wear helmets and things like that. Well, yeah, helmets are going to save your life, but they still won't enact that as a law. The closest they've come recently is to take all the alcohol off the beach and say that that's illegal now. And I don't know if the last time you were at the beach, last time we were at the beach, the whole beach was littered with just empty bottles and cans and things like that were kind of washing out in the ocean. I mean, it made it a very unpleasant experience. And all it is, you know, kind of you know, leave it better than you found it, you know, concept. You know, the generation behind us is supposed to be of that group that says, you know what, we realize that what all you adults did, you know, our generation, the generation before that, with all the coal and lead and carbon, you know, stuff going on. They're supposed to be getting better at that. But you look at this, and we don't.
This is like a swarm of locusts coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's hard to say whether it's the college kids that are the only ones responsible for it, or if they're the main reason why it's there, because, you know, the tourism side of things is really driving a lot of it. Is that they want the tourism here to bring it, but then they don't want what they call the undesirable element that comes with it.
You know, I was in New York recently, and I was up there for a week. And, oh yeah, Panama City, crazy down there.
Yeah.
We're getting a reputation nationwide as this post-apocalyptic nightmare of a beach town that nobody wants to send their kid to now. And I quite frankly, I think it's a big wake-up call for everybody.
I hope it is too.
If you allow me that little editorializing on the Waking Up non-political Don show, we gotta go off to a break. But I want to talk more about this. Because I think it's very troubling for the community, and it's troubling to me personally as a parent and as a citizen of Bay County. We'll be right back after your Waking Up with Don weather. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dr. Roman Nation from Nation's Best Family Healthcare in Lynn Haven and on Panama City Beach, and we're talking about spring break, health risks, and risk management, I suppose.
Yep, we were talking about it. We were talking in the break about you know, parenting and how we would address with parents to do things. And when you look at things from a mentorship perspective, because that's what we do as kids age, we go from being parents to more so being mentors for them. And when you look at good mentorship role models, the whole idea is what they call an invisible safety net, meaning that you're there, you're not on top of them, meaning that they think that they're, you know, you got the bug watching, you know, watching you all the time. but you want them to know that if something happens, that you're always there for them.
You know, you try to instill your children with, with the values and morals, and then, it's kind of a fire and forget missile. You got to hope they stay on course after that.
Yeah.
And, I've seen some of the interviews. I know on Fox, they did some national coverage of spring break here. And there was a girl on the street type interview, or girl on the beach type interview. And she goes, screw my parents, they're not here. Woohoo, party. That's not what parents want to see.
Yeah, and that's not what most of us would instill in our children.
Yeah, of course not. And then
they always need fry cooks at McDonald's. So
yeah, apparently. I had a good friend of mine who said, if it weren't for people like that, people like me would have to flip burgers. So
yeah, there's stuff like that. And I've actually come across. We've had people with college degrees that have not had the cleanest pass that can't find a job for one reason or another. And a lot of things now are actually getting into background checks and look at arrest records and things like that.
Social media.
Yep.
One crazy spring break photo goes viral. That's it. That's you. That's you forever on the internet.
Yep.
And I think a lot of these kids, and that's thank goodness, there was no such thing as Facebook or Twitter when I was growing up. So the stupid stuff we did, somebody had to have a Kodak Instamatic with a flash cube to capture, But now everybody's got these phones.
No, and there's a lot of stuff that's still about negative notoriety is still, positive for them. And it's that whole thing of like they don't have enough self-centered, confidence in order to say, you know what, I don't need to have approval from everybody else to do what I want to do.
You don't have to be famous. You don't have to be different. You don't have to be notorious.
Right. Yeah. You just have to be you.
You just have to be you and be a good person.
Yeah. And if we're going to do risky things, like I said, do them smartly. And to me as a parent, I would tell the ones that are there, is like, call me if you need something. But the trouble you're going to get into with me is far less than if you get into trouble with the law.
That's right. And not that I'm Father of the Year, but I like to think that we did a great job with our kids. And I used to always leave my son Nicholas when he had a sleepover or something like that. I'd say, be responsible. That was my words to him. It was like, be responsible.
Yeah, that's what I tell Scarlett, be smart.
Be smart, be responsible.
Yeah.
And if you can't be smart, just be careful.
Yeah. If this is this a smart thing to do? Maybe so.
So what do you think the remedy is for all of this? I know there's some
it's going to
talk
evolve.
Of local legislation and all that stuff.
Well, in our area, the biggest thing is going to be is like, if you look at how Las Vegas evolved. Vegas at one point was a very small, was
That's
a
right.
much
You're
smaller
from Las
city.
Vegas. I keep forgetting that.
And they had a similar type of thing, as you'd have people come in for the tourism industry, and then when the tourism broke out, then there was all kinds of problems, and then it was shrunk back, and then they didn't have the economy to support it. So what Vegas ended up doing, and that's how they've become the entertainment capital of the world, is they advertise it all the time, so that there's something there going on all the time. When you build that infrastructure so that there's a constant tourism, now you don't have to do the seasonal thing.
That cyclical thing of,
exactly. Here. Like here in Panama City Beach, you have a few weeks in the summer, and I mean, you have a spring break, and then you have a few months in the summer, and then the rest of the time people they'll close down shops. I remember when I first moved here.
Oh, I remember that too.
Shops would close for the winter.
For the season they'd be done.
Yeah, and to me that is, that's no way to make a sustainable economy. I mean, it is always going to be fragile.
Tourism's important. I get that. But it doesn't have to be seasonal. It can be all year round.
You have to build it so that they build the infrastructure.
We could be Branson with a beach. I mean, we could really be a family-oriented.
There's a lot of things that they could change, and even if they still held the adult element with the the clubs and things like that, you have to build the infrastructure for the police force in order to maintain it, to keep it safe for everybody.
Well, my hat's off to Sheriff McKeith and the Bay County Sheriff's Office and all the law enforcement that came here like blood to a wound to help tamp this thing down. And I just hope the city fathers are watching Waking Up with Don, and the second smartest man in the world, Dr. Roman Nation. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Doc. Always a pleasure to see you.
You too.
And we'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dr. Aaron Shores from Spine and Neural Pain Specialists here in Panama City and up in Chipley. And I see you've brought your friend Mr. Bones with you today, Doctor.
I did.
Yeah. Now, we had talked before we started rolling tape about back pain. And people say, my aching sacroiliac or whatever. Back pain can be very complex, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I find a lot of folks, when their back hurts or their leg hurts, they call it their, quote, sciatica.
And sciatica, yes.
Yeah, and I find most times when patients come to tell me they have, quote, sciatica, they probably really don't. I do see true sciatica, but it's not quite as common as I think most people think that it is.
And the symptoms of sciatica are lower back pain, shooting down your leg, something like that. Is that
actually sciatica? True sciatica usually originates around the buttock, and folks can have some pain around the buttock, but they oftentimes will get pain or numbness radiating down the leg, and it's a result of actually an entrapment or pinching of the sciatic nerve in the hip, not so much a pinched nerve in the back. But back pain certainly is complicated, and oftentimes there's more than one issue contributing to people's back pain, and it just takes time to tease that out.
Gee, so what are some of the things that can go wrong with the rest of your spine? I mean, I look at this structure, and it's really a wondrous creation of God here. And it seems like there's a lot of moving parts in what should be your straight back.
There are, if I turn Mr. Bones over here a little bit, maybe I'll prop him up.
And apologies to the 95th Fighter Squadron out there at Tyndall. We've kind of adopted Mr. Bones here.
But there are several structures. There are many joints in the back. There are joints here called the sacroiliac joints, or SI joints.
Yeah.
There are joints called facet joints, which are these smaller hinge joints in the low back. There are muscles and tendons. And then there are also, there are also discs in the front that can also, as this image is showing here, can have a disc herniation that may be pinching a nerve.
And that's what this little red thing is.
That's what the little red thing is. Or sometimes the disc itself can be a source of pain and not pinch any nerves. And the troubling thing, or not the troubling thing, but the diagnostic challenge oftentimes is the pictures won't tell us the answer. So we have to come up with other strategies to figure out what it is.
So, say a bulging disc like that little red thing that's so obvious on this for demonstration purposes, is that going to be obvious on an X-ray?
Yeah, MRIs are very good at showing disc herniations. X-rays, not so much. You can get some subtle clues that someone may have some disc issues based on an X-ray, but an MRI is really probably the gold standard for making that diagnosis. And certainly if someone has a large disc herniation or some narrowing that's pinching a nerve, that is very evident on an MRI.
What are some of the things that might be causing people pain that wouldn't be readily ascertainable on an MRI?
Sure. Oftentimes joints are an issue, like the sacroiliac joint or the facet joints we mentioned earlier. Those are oftentimes a significant pain generator for people. And we'll see patients sometimes that will have a disc herniation or some narrowing in their spinal canal that may be pinching a nerve, and that may be explaining some of their leg discomfort, but maybe not all of their back pain. So your MRI may show one issue, but you could have some other issues in the low back that take some time to tease out.
Dr. Aaron Shores, thank you so much for coming on the show and getting us smart on back pain.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Christina Williams from Superior Residences here on Panama City Beach. And Superior Residences, if people who don't know, is a assisted living facility, brand new.
Brand new.
On Panama City Beach.
Correct. Brand new resort-style senior living community that offers assisted living and memory care. We're brand new. We will start moving residents in around April the 1st.
Now, people have already purchased or signed up
reserved.
for, or reserved, that's the proper word, to live in some of those apartments that you have there.
Yes, sir.
So there's still some available.
There is, yes, sir. We are booking up quickly. People are very excited about our community. We have over 50% already pre-reserved, but we are still have plenty of room and are excited to welcome anyone who might be interested in our community.
Now, what if you're an elderly person who may be watching this right now, and you're like, well, do I really need an assisted living? I mean, how do you make up your mind?
Well, there's a lot of things to consider. We talk about the pros and cons of moving in with us or staying at home, and if anyone's interested, they can go to our website, superioralf.com. And one thing that's really important is the cost. Everybody always asks, how much is this going to cost me?
Well, sure, yeah.
Absolutely, money's important. And you work hard for your money and you don't want it to be wasted. But we have a cost comparison calculator where someone can go in and put in their monthly expenses, phone, cable, internet, homeowners insurance, yard man fees, pool fees, any fees that they have associated with their home that they pay on a monthly basis. versus the rent for us, and see where they would end up and what might be more cost effective.
And you know, the older you get, the more expensive things kind of become, because you know, I have elderly parents, and my dad used to be able to do everything around the house. Well, now he's getting up there in age and he can't.
Right.
You know, he can't shovel snow because they live in New York. I mean, he can't do a lot of those things he used to kind of take for granted.
Absolutely. And with us, it's, you know, one of the things we say, it's all the comforts of home without any of the hassle. We do your laundry, we clean your room, we keep up the yard. There's no yard to keep up. It's just, we change the light bulbs, we change the air filters, any of the maintenance things that the residents need, we take care of.
And then they give you whatever medical care you need as well. If
Yes,
you
sir.
need some sort of visiting nurse or whatever, you've got a whole medical staff right there to take care of
Absolutely.
you.
And what's so great about us, with our licensing level, we can give someone as little support or as much support as they need. They can move in with us very having great health, just might need some assistance occasionally, and then if they decline or a disease process takes place, they can stay with us and age in place, because we have an extended license level that lets them
just
stay
because
with
you
us.
get sick doesn't mean you have to move.
Correct.
I mean, you can
and you
stay
stay
there.
in your own apartment. I've had several people come in that think they move to a different part of the building as they get sicker, and that's not the case. You move into your apartment, and that is your apartment until you don't want it anymore.
You know, on the tour that I took there, what impressed me the most is that it's not just an old man or an old lady, and I say that with great respect. Couples are moving in there as well, where one's maybe in relatively good health and one needs more care, but one can't take care of the other anymore because of the age.
Absolutely. We have quite a few couples moving in, and like you said, it's typically one spouse needs a little bit more assistance than the other, and they just don't want to be by themselves anymore. And they can do that because our community is such a resort style, and it feels like home, that the spouse who is still in pretty good health doesn't feel like they're moving into an assisted living or institution.
Besides just going to your website and doing that whole checklist, I think there was some intangibles, like, you know, having friends, having a community of people, rather than just being in your home. And you know, we're so out of time, it's not funny, but it's always good to talk with you about this, because as we get older, you know, we're going to be looking out for our parents and grandparents here.
Absolutely.
Christina Williams, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back, and today we have Randy from 5L Fitness. Thank you for coming back and joining us again.
No problem.
So I want to talk about something that a lot of people, and I know myself, lack in daily consumption, and that is water.
Water, yes.
How important is water to your everyday life and your health?
Water is the absolute most important component of getting in shape. You know, people talk about how much time do they work out and how much rest and how much do they eat and all of that, but the thing about water is that's the majority of what we are. We're 60%, in some cases 70% water, and without that key element, none of the other things work. So if you're trying to lose body fat or gain muscle mass, all of those key processes involved in making that happen start with H2O.
Yep. Now, one thing I noticed, I used to do, you know, the fitness competitions, and water was the most important. A gallon a day. A lot of people go, a gallon? They say 8 cups, you know, make sure you have at least 8 glasses of water. Now, if you didn't have those, I notice you actually seem to store, it seems like you're storing fat, or you're weighing more, you're not
and the
depleting.
thing about
Why?
water is if you don't drink enough, then your body goes into storage mode. So a lot of people end up getting bloated and retaining water because they don't drink enough water. Your body's always going to be smarter than you are. So what it doesn't get, it stores. And that's why a lot of people end up losing a lot of weight initially once they increase their water intake.
And another thing I noticed that water has an effect on your body is, or for mine at least, is my joints. If I dehydrate my body and I'm not drinking water, and of course a lot of people, they go through their whole day working, doing this, running around, and they forget the most important thing is hydrate and drink water. And my joints will ache and I'll be in pain. Is that from the water?
And those joints are actually dry, and that's the problem.
They're screaming at me.
Absolutely. And the thing about it is, you know, like I said, every process in the body, from joint lubrication to metabolism to anabolism, which is the building of muscle, or the process that's involved with building muscle, it includes water. And we should probably look at ourselves as like a chemical process as opposed to an individual, because everything that we do is based on certain sets of chemical processes and enzymes and all of those things. And without the base of all of that, it just doesn't happen.
There's nothing.
It doesn't work. Yeah.
So what is a good tip to help people understand, or get them to drink the water and remember to drink the water? Is there any tips you have?
Well, one good tip is to carry your water bottle with you, have it with you all the time, and always refill it. And another thing is to drink it at a temperature that works for you. Some people don't like cold water, some people don't like warm water. There's benefits either way, but I'd say just drink it at whatever temperature makes you happy.
When you're saying benefits, I've heard that as well. What is the benefit of drinking warm water versus cold water?
Well, cold water is actually the recommended way to consume it, especially if you're in athletics or doing any kind of competitions, because your body absorbs cold water more efficiently than it does warm water.
Okay, and also for water consumption, I've also read that, squeezing lemon, does that actually benefit you from, whatever's in the lemon, the acids or whatever?
And it's more of a personal preference. I'd rather see people just drink water, but if lemon helps them, there could be some benefits from the citric acid and all of that, but it also gives you a little bit more vitamin C too.
Awesome.
But when in doubt, just drink.
Drink water. Now, where can someone, get a hold of you for personal training or contact you?
Well, we actually train at Impact Fitness on Hickory Street here in Panama City, and we also train exclusively on Tyndall Air Force Base.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned.